I'd say that looks a little better. So I cut the frame off with the torch because what I'll do is I freehand a cut, off of my line, so that when I go to make a nice cut with the circular saw, I only have this little bit of weight basically pinching on the blade of the circular saw. So I do the same thing on both sides. It makes it much easier. We've got all the plumbing back in, all the air lines are plumbed back in, zip tied, and the extra length, there's 102 inches more of wire here that we don't need, so I just run it back and forth and zip tie it, put the stands in here to keep it away from anything not rubbing. I used to cut this section out and solder it and deox heat shrink, but I quit doing that because I realized that it's a factory harness the way it is, and that's like 22 wires in here. So if I cut it apart, I have 22 possibilities of corrosion, so I just leave it. These are extra wires that I don't know what we're going to do with yet. One is for a switch for a box, for a light inside the box. Depending on what we use it for, this might be a switch for inside a toolbox. There's a wire for a marker light, just the marker light circuit where they interrupt it from the factory harness. And there's a line for a backup camera. We got everything just about done. Let's see, we got the same thing on the back. The factory light harness is back here. I just run it back and forth here, and then that way, no matter what we do with lights, we have plenty of wire to go from one side or the other. So the truck is able to run and drive again, which is what the goal is with this project, is to every phase of it make it run and drive again, because it will be up for sale from right now until it's done. And if it gets sold before I get to the next phase, so be it. If it doesn't, we just keep continuing on. The plan might be to put a 10-foot dump on this, but I've laid this out for 10-foot cut, 10-foot 4, 10-foot 6, 10-foot 8, 10-foot 10, 11, 11.6, and this is 12. So if you're going to put a service body, if somebody wanted a service body on this thing, obviously it would work out for like an 11-footer, which is what you'd expect on an 84 cab axle. So the drive shaft's back in and all ready to go. I think we're ready to start this thing and back it out of here. My wife's going to start cleaning the interior next, and while she's doing that, I'm going to start making this cut with the circular saw, make it nice and clean.
So he's going to pull it out the garage, turn it around, and then back it in. So the front will be close to the door tomorrow, so I can clean it out and get some natural light. I'm not talking about beer. Better go move some stuff in here.
So the next thing I need to do is address the battery box. It is almost non-existent. I mean, there's no floor in it. The back is out of it. The sides are rotted away, and she's pretty daggum rough. But I think I have another one. So let's go outside and see if I can find one. From time to time, I get people that complain I have too much crap laying around, and that's okay. You can do whatever you want at your place. I have crap laying around for a reason, and here's exactly one of them. There's a perfect battery box, got the step brackets, the front plate, the bottom's good. That just saved me like $200 trying to find one. Well, that is much better for sure. Now it can actually hold batteries without falling out of the bottom. We have the front plate on it. We got a cover on it. The steps are back on. You can actually step on it without feeling like you're going to end up on the ground. Like I said in the previous video, these battery boxes and fuel tanks are supplied by a third-party vendor, and they use powder coating, and you can see it just comes off in sheets. And the salt water and brine solution gets between the two and just eats it away until you're left with, about nothing. Same thing on the air tanks. They're a problem as well. So I'm sure you guys are thinking to yourself, man, this is not the typical build that we watch you do. And you're right. And there's a reason we called this down and dirty, because we're going to be doing some things like we used to do. And this is how we used to do these trucks. My wife and I would get one of these trucks. We'd take the 24-foot box off, cut the lift gate off that thing, sell the box, sell the lift gate, and we would start moving the axle forward, and cut the frame off. And we would do that from start to finish, from the time we started till the time it was at this point, was less than 8 hours. It was really not difficult. After we'd done a few, it got pretty easy, pretty quick, just like what this is. And we would take these trucks and take care of some of the incidentals, like, we'd have a problem like this with a battery box. It really isn't a problem if you have a battery box, if you know where to get one, or if you actually want to fool with it, just like the fuel tank. If you don't, well, that really deters some people who aren't mechanics or just don't want to fool with it, because there was plenty of trucks out there to buy that didn't have these problems. So we would do this 6 to 12 times a month. And the trucks would sell about as fast as I can get them done, sometimes even before they were done. Somebody wanted it. So, as that time went on, and I realized that, I was making this small amount of money, but if I cleaned the trucks up and did a nicer build the way I would like it for myself, I could make more money, and the profit margin would be quite a bit bigger. Of course, so is the time investment and the parts investment, but when it was all said and done, the trucks I was building, I was happy with. They were best trucks that I could build myself with my abilities, and it did well. Well, in the recent years, the economy just keeps going lower and lower, at least in the truck world, and I'm at a point where I have 9 of these trucks that I need to do something with. And I would really just like to get them sold, and I would like to thin down. I keep saying this year after year, and we're going to try and make it happen. So we're going back to the way we used to do things, because if the trucking market is declining, there's no need for me to continue to build all these trucks to the standard that I have been doing it, when it just may end up sitting around. And I'll use an example. Project X-Haul, in my opinion, turned out beautiful. I think it was a great truck. It was mediocre when we started. It's good now, and I think it'll be a great truck. Wasn't long ago I'd finish a truck like that, or be close to finish, and I'd have a buyer for it. That truck's been done for a month now, and I've had 2 serious people on it. One had a health condition that couldn't come through. The other one, I think, is running into financial troubles. Normally that truck would have been gone really fast, but that, along with some other things, indicators I see in the market, tells me that the best thing I can do is just keep my investment low and just let's see if we can get some of these out the door. And that's what this is. That's why we're calling it down and dirty, because that's what we used to do. And it allowed people who maybe didn't want to do this, or was intimidated by moving an axle, or didn't have the equipment to move an axle, and it gave them a starting point. And I believe the market is at that point where there's a large number of buyers who are looking for somewhere to get some sweat equity out of a truck or a vehicle, where they can get it for less and swap over their dump bed or buy a used bed or whatever the case. Not all of them, but maybe some. Typically, I'd build this truck. The last one I did like this, I put a bed on it, shortened it up, did everything we're talking about. The body was in good shape. We didn't need to do any paint. We did do the frame. We did do the steps and the fuel tank and the wheels and tires, and put a hitch on the back, just like we do on a lot of the trucks. That truck sold for $36,000, all done. Now, of course, we had quite a bit more money into it in time. This truck I have for sale for $8,500. Now, I'm only telling you the dollar amounts on this because it just to explain the process of what I'm doing and why. This truck at $8,500, that includes, I'm going to fix the tank over there. My wife's going to detail it, and we'll wash the truck. And that's it. It's up for sale. We're doing this truck in stages, I'm going to put it up for sale. I'm going to let it sit for a week or two or whatever while I do something else. While I do something else, I'm thinking about this truck and where I want to go next, right? So the next thing I'm probably going to do is do the body work. That would be the next step for me, or I'm going to bring it in and take care of an oil leak. It has an oil leak at the rear of the engine. You can see it on that cardboard down there we put to show you. So I could probably fix that and make it a little bit more attractive. This truck's a 5.9 Cummins, 6-speed manual, air brake, 33,000 GVW truck. Now, that oil leak might be something that nobody wants to do. However, if you're putting a clutch in the truck, it doesn't need a clutch, but maybe in the next 50,000 miles, it may need a clutch. If it did, that's when I would take care of that. However, if the truck is still here, when I'm done with the next thing that I'm doing, we'll go into phase 2, which will either be sandblast and paint all this stuff and do the hitch on the back, or it'll be do the body work. The smarter thing for me to do would be do the body work and do that oil leak. That would be the next step that I should do, because the oil leak is something that may be a concern to somebody. The next one to be a concern would be the rust on the rockers and cab corners. The last thing we will do will be the back end. And I'll tell you why, because I can't do the back end. I have to commit to a frame length. And as you can see, I've marked this all out for different frame lengths of different options of what could be done with the truck. Once I cut that frame and I do something with the back of it, you're kind of committed. If it's too short, I just alienated a few buyers. If it's too long, it can still be cut off, but that is what it is. So that's the purpose of the build. That's what we're doing. This is going to be it for this stage, other than the fuel tank. So that is how we're going to run this build. The next thing we're going to do is pull that fuel tank off and start seeing what we can do there. If I have another one, I'll swap it out. If I don't, then I'm going to repair that one. We'll have to see how bad it is. So I just wanted to explain kind of where we're at with this. So this is the next thing I want to do. Let's get this fuel tank off. It's an 80-gallon. There's about a quarter of a tank in it. So we're going to take this loose. I expect this tank to be absolutely worthless when we're done, because it's got rust jacking here. It's coming apart. It's got it here, and it has it here. So we're just going to pump the fuel out, which is probably like 20 gallons or so. We'll get the tank off, and then we'll see if we can find something that would maybe come into about this area here, to where you can free up this side of the frame. So if someone wanted to put a full-length toolbox in here, there's no obstructions, no interference. So let's get this off. So I pumped 20 gallons out of this already. That is the 5th bucket, and I'll save some of it to put back in it. But the old detail master is already added in here. What a difference. She's done the driver's side panel, and you can see what this is like here, how grody all that is. But it won't be like that when she's done. We use this light from ATD. It's a rechargeable light and hooks on the roof. It makes it real easy to do this inside. Because, you know, I pulled all the fuel out of it, and she likes to do these detail jobs outside because she can see better. Look how gross this seat is.
Yeah, that should be easy.
Yeah, she'll get it. I do have, you remember I got, I think I have 4 of these brand new ones. You remember?
I don't know, look at that already.
Oh yeah.
That was like 2 seconds.
That's really bad. Okay, well, once this gets pumped out, we'll remove it. I got a long way to go. I can tap it. There's still a lot of fuel in there, but you can see how pitted this is. There's another hole right there probably. Anyways, just keep going. Well, I guess that's pretty well tells the story, doesn't it? Okay. Well, I don't think there's any hopes to fix this, or any reasonable hope why we should. More reasons to crush it with the grate all and throw it away, I think. But we gotta get the sending unit out of it and the fittings for the pickup tube. So let's drag this thing outside and get our mess cleaned up. This was awful. It's time to do the windows now. Look at that front one. Ooh, yeah,
I only did half of it. I only did
Man, look how nice that truck looks.
Oh boy, look how dirty. And this is like a half-hearted, you know, clean. I haven't really.
It's a nice thing about this light.
Yeah, look.
God, look how bad that is. Yikes. That headliner looks good though.
I couldn't tell because it was kind of dim in here, you know, and shadowy. But it's got to be better than it was.
Yep. I'm gonna go look at my tank. I went shopping for a tank. When I say shopping, it's different than everybody else. I went to my other properties and looked at what I had available, and what I decided to do was use this tank I have here. I have an aluminum tank that is ready to go. Quite honestly, I could probably unbolt this because it's the same system as the F750 here, and I could probably take these loose. You see they're huck bolted here, and then that whole thing comes up out of those holders if that spacing is correct, which I'll measure and see, but may not. If not, I'll just take it out of the holders and put it in there. You see how the steps are the same, and that is a right side tank, so the fuel fills in the front like it should be. So I guess we're just going to use that. I didn't really want to, but it is what it is. So I got the tank in. We're getting it prepped and ready to go in the truck, but that means we need to check a few things like the sending unit. This is the Ford sending unit, which is 14 ohms empty, 160 ohms full. This is from an International 4300, and it is 240 ohms empty. So it works backwards than what this does, and in a different range. So we got to swap them out, and then we also need to swap out the lines. This is a return. This is the supply on the International. You see the fittings are two different sizes here. This is a sending unit from the other tank. Of course, I cut the center out so we could use it on another tank later. But you can see here, these are the same size. And then we cut it out. You can easily see this is a pickup tube, and this is a return tube. So we got to make sure we get them back in, and we want to clean out the center of them so we put it back together. We don't have a air leak. If we put this together and this O-ring is no good or it leaks, what will happen is it will let all the fuel drain out of that truck back into the tank every single time it's shut off within time. And we don't want that, because then you have a starting problem, long crank, all that. So best thing to do is take the O-rings that are on here and replace them if you can. Now in ours, this is our supply line. This is our return. I know that because the way we took them off, and one of these little clips broke, because they always do, they're so brittle. The other one didn't. So I'm going to swap these two things out real quick, and we're going to drain the rest of what's left of fuel in that tank and get it out. I got the plug out of the bottom, draining it out, and I'm starting to take the stuff loose. And of course we got steel going into plastic and aluminum, and two of the heads snapped off. You can see how they are already rusted thin, so not surprising. I got them soaking with some PB Blaster, and get all these fittings out next so I have a little more room to work, and we'll see if we can get them out. It shouldn't really be too horrible. I mean, it's difficult in aluminum, but yeah, we'll see what we can do.
He looks so surprised that you're trying to take his nose off.
Oh no! Okay, I'll just keep working this out little by little. Look how much is ate away. We got lucky. Came out with no troubles. Now I just need to get that little scuff off of there. I did that when I was trying to get this to come up. Get that cleaned up so that it seals well without tearing the seal itself. And then we'll reseal these fittings. I pulled this out and the draw tube comes with it, so that's good. Just able to swap the two. They're the same depth, so should be just fine. Got the tank back in. Now we're going to put the steps on. These are the lesser of the evils of the steps we have. Again, if we go farther with this build, then this will all get cleaned up and painted. If we don't, well, the next guy gets some sweat equity. He can doll it up and primp and polish and all that kind of stuff, but we're getting there. Get these steps bolted down, get some fuel back in it, and then it's time to de-algify it. It's been sitting a while, as you can tell. We'll get her cleaned up. Okay, it's running. Just looking to make sure we don't have any leaks and that the actual fuel gauge is correct, which is showing just under a quarter of a tank, which is probably close. Being it's a 50-gallon tank and we only put 10 gallons in it, that's probably pretty close. So, next thing, let's get it outside. Let's get a pressure wash. Okay, there we have it. Phase 1 is complete. We are done with this truck now. I've taken care of some incidentals and a little bit of repairs here and there. We still have the turbo actuator that's being a problem, but I just drove the thing and I put a few miles on it and it hasn't acted up since, so I'm not doing anything with that as of yet. If it becomes a problem, we'll have to address it, but I'm going to see what happens first. It's possible we have a problem just from sitting. And if that's the case and it works itself out, great. If not, then we'll deal with it then. Also, my oil leak. Get this. My oil leak used to be pretty good. Now it's just barely a drip at all. You can let it run for a while. I don't know if it's something to do with the fact it was sitting and now all the seals are starting to get oil back. I don't know. Probably will rear its ugly head again before this is over. But anyways, for right now it's not as bad. So we are complete. I'm going to put this truck up for sale. We're going to keep this momentum going with other projects we've got going on. We're going to try and do as much as we can, as quick as we can, with as many as we can. So while this is up for sale, we're going to go work on another truck, another project we've got going. And I'm just trying to make progress on this stuff. And then if this hasn't sold by the time I'm ready, then I'll bring it back in and we'll commit to a frame length here. We'll whack that off, weld a hitch plate on, get everything ready to go, sandblast and paint. That'll be the next phase. And then we'll have to talk about the body work. Might be doing some body work. The fuel tank works, the sending unit works correctly. We're going to get some more diesel fuel to put in it. Next phase might be polishing that tank and sandblasting all the steps and stuff. We'll have to see. But that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.